Welcome, everyone. This is My Divine Light, and our website is mydivinelight.com. And today we're going to review the book, You Are Divinely Made, and we're now on chapter 2. So we're going to start with the opening statement in the chapter. And the chapter is called The Invisible Present Moment. Glorious life only flows through this moment, moving through every point of individual consciousness. There's no other life, no other reality. This magnificent life comes from the Spirit of God deep within every individual, mineral, vegetable, animal, and human. While it is pushing out into the visible experience, flowing as a rushing, ever-replenishing river, filling its banks with lush growth. So this is describing the nature of life. Life is like a river that moves through our souls and becomes manifest through our souls. And it takes no effort on our part, and it is a perfect expression of who we are, of how God made us. Now, because of our entanglement with world thought, with the world mind that believes that God is separate from us, or that somehow we have to get God to come into our lives. Because of that entanglement, we have to untangle ourselves in order to allow this flowing river of life to manifest as it was meant to manifest. Our individual minds, or what we call the intellect, have been clouded over with all these world ideas of what God is and what life is. And as this life stream moves through us, it moves through the mind, and then mind images. That's what we experience with the five sense mind, is these mind images that are produced from whatever fills the mind. Okay, and so that puts us in a position where we have to transition out of that into allowing this river of life to produce the perfection that it is there to do. That is what it is meant to do. We are meant to live our lives harmoniously, free of all limitation, free of all lack, free of all suffering. That's how God intended us to live in the Garden of Eden. Now, God never took away the Garden of Eden from us, but we fell into this deception that made us believe that we were outside of the Garden of Eden, that we were outside of heaven itself. And so now we have to transition back. And the biggest part of that is becoming aware or awake to what life really is, what the truth about life is. This is not something that can be forced. In other words, mind, we're used as human beings using our minds to get things done. We use our minds to figure things out. We use our minds to push ourselves forward. But in this work, we are going to come out of the mind. We're coming out of the body and coming out of the mind and getting back into our soul. And so this cannot be done by force. We cannot storm heaven by force. It has to come gently. Now, with that said, there is still a certain amount of gentle effort that must be made, but the effort is in awakening, expanding our awareness, and not trying to make something happen, not trying to change the outer appearance, because the outer appearance changes with what you fill the mind with. And when you begin to fill the mind from the soul with your inner spirit, then that changes the outer form. And so that must be taken on with an attitude that is not trying to force it, but is going to allow it, in the understanding that there's no resistance. There's nothing in the way of this life moving through us and producing its perfection. The only problem is we've clouded our minds with these other world concepts that are not in alignment with what God's creation is. And so the process is to start clearing that out. And we begin doing that by going through practices. And this chapter is about kind of starting at the very basics and understanding that our attention where we put our attention has an effect on what we experience. And by putting our attention on the idea that our consciousness is what we are, and that consciousness has been constricted due to accepting these world ideas. And so we're going to do practices that start allowing us to expand, to re-expand our consciousness, to get back where we were before the world was. It's like Jesus said, before the world was, I am. And that means that we've got to get back into that state of pure consciousness where we're not putting mortal ideas onto our immortal life, which is flowing through us and always flowing through us. But we've got to clean up this mind that we've unknowingly allowed to be clouded over with false ideas. We thought they were true because the world told us they were true. Our parents, our friends, our neighbors, and even just the thoughts floating around in the air have come into our individual mind, and our agreement with those has perpetuated it into experiences, individual experiences. And so the whole point of this chapter is to begin practicing, expanding our awareness, and becoming more aware of what life really is, and not just going along with life and thinking we're the body and we're the mind, and not realizing that we are much, much more than that. And that this mind and body is nothing more than an outer expression of who we are in our soul. And so first, it starts with body awareness.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I know our bodies are made up of consciousness, but that also includes the subconscious. And I've heard you say before, you cannot fool your subconscious. And so, as you all always say, you have to start where you're at. In this case, you also have to start where you're at the state of consciousness, and you want to go to a higher consciousness. So, if you try to live with that higher consciousness and focus on the highest aspirations, then the disruptive urges and impulses will fall away of their own accord because the impulse will fall away. Your subconscious won't register it anymore. So what you're doing is you're raising your consciousness by starting where it is at right now, and then you have a couple practices. You have a practice.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about that because our soul in its pure form is pure consciousness. But the soul, not being fully awake to what it is, has been following what the mind has been suggesting. And the mind is getting all its information from the world. And so our bodies are what our consciousness is. That state of consciousness moves through the mind, and the mind projects mental images. And that's what these bodies are. They're mental bodies. And all that we sense with our five senses are mental forms. And so our consciousness is what our body is. And so what we want to do is we want to raise our consciousness so that in turn changes the outward picture, this mental form called body, which is really a mind body. And so that's what the practice is about. And what was the other thing that you mentioned there?
Well, I was going to bring up that you decide there's an intelligence in the universe discerning what your intentions are while responding to them. There's an intelligence in the universe and always knows. The universe knows. And the second part of the first page was to focus on the highest aspirations. And that way you just any small little disruptions, mortal mind thoughts, things that lower your feeling, your well, I guess your feeling world, your conscious mind, all of those things will fall up naturally, as long as you're not trying to force it.
Well, they do, yes.
Because you're focusing on your higher aspirations, always asking, is this the highest good? Is this others the highest good? For others. Actually, we ask that question first. Is this in the highest good of others and also yourself?
Yeah. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, they say. And that's true, because what you want for yourself, if you really are in your soul, you'll realize, oh, what's good for me is what I want for everyone else. Of course it is.
So you're focusing on the intentions, which was the next thing you brought up.
Right. You really want to find out what your true intention is. And that's what some of these practices are there to really get your attention on the life that's flowing through us. This life has an intelligence in it, and it has an activity in it, and it has its own intention of making you a perfect being in expression.
And that intelligence in your body already knows what to do.
It does, but we need to become aware of it. It won't benefit us until we're fully awake of what it's doing and how it operates. Because if we're not aware of that, then our mind is still clouded over with these other false ideas of life. For instance, the world tells us that we go through life and we begin to age, or that we can't, we're bound by gravity, or that we're controlled by the stars, or we're controlled by conditions. All these things that the world tells us. Now, this life that's flowing through us has its own intention, and it has nothing to do with those concepts. And so, like you said, the first thing we want to do is try and get a handle on what our intentions are, what our real intentions are. And if they're selfish, then they come from the world. Once we get into the soul, we realize selfishness is what's been holding us back the whole time. It's the unselfishness that sets everything free. It sets life free to be what it's meant to be. And so, but first we've got to go through these practices of expanding our awareness. And the first one is about the body and moving through the body. So there's these practices where you go start at the top of the head and you put your attention there. A lot of this work is about where your attention is. And when our attention's out in the outer forms, that's where duality comes in. And you get involved with both good and evil. And when we withdraw that attention, when we're able to withdraw that attention back into the soul and then turn into where the inner spirit is, where the spirit is moving through us and putting our attention on that, then that changes automatically. That starts to dissipate all the false concepts that are clouding the mind. So you move down through the body, and as you move down through the body, you become aware that, and the first exercise is to find, where is my real self? Where is this self that thinks, this self that moves the body, this self that tells the body not to move? Who is this I that I am that is not the body and is not the mind? And if you first go through the body from your head all the way down to your toes, you can move fairly slowly, just move down through the body and become aware of, where is myself? Is it in my head? Is it in my eyes? Is it in my teeth? If I have a tooth that falls out, is myself still here? Is myself present? If I lose an eye, am I still here? Does that take away who I am? If I lose a limb, this body is operating, but am I in the body somewhere? And so we go down through the body, and really, if you take this to heart, if you're serious about it, you'll do this several times to try and find where you are and who you are. If you move your arm, well, who's the you moving the arm? Where is that you at? Is it in the arm that you move? Try and see if you can locate yourself anywhere in your body. And maybe you might say, well, no, my body as a whole is who I am. But is that true? Look in there and see. Look there. Is my whole body my whole self? Is that all I am? And yet, if you start to contemplate it, you understand, I see. So I'm not the I, I'm seeing with the eye. I'm using the eye to see. And if I'm using it, then I'm not it. If I think, then I'm not the thoughts. I'm the one thinking. I'm the one having the thoughts. I'm the one that is doing it. But where is that I at? So this is a good start to start expanding and start realizing we're not in the body. We've never been in the body. We're the user of the body. And this is the beginning of understanding that we have dominion. But first, you've got to start getting a hold of what yourself is, where yourself is, what its true identity is. And by doing this exercise over and over again, you'll begin to realize you never were in this body. God never put you in a body. He gave you a body to use, but he never put you in it. You're the one controlling it. You're the one who is dictating what the body does, but you're not in it. And so that's a good practice to go over quite a few times.
You have several practices in chapter 2, and they
Yes.
build on each other. The one on page 10, then the next one is on page 14. It's the practice for intelligent awareness. So now you can always expand, go a little higher, and but what happens is after you've mastered the one, then the next one actually takes you into a new different dimension.
Right. So it does build. It's meant to increase and expand your awareness. That's what it's for. Mm-hmm. And so then you get into the mind. What is the mind? Is the brain the mind? Or is there something else that is beyond the mind? And so this one on page 14 that Patty's talking about is that one is you go through the body and you start to question, well, who's functioning this eyeball? Is it just the brain? Is the brain decide what the eye sees? Does the brain decide what color my skin is? Is it the DNA? Is the DNA making decisions about who I am? And you start to realize there's an intelligence operating in the body. In every cell in your body, inside each cell, there's a whole factory of functions going on inside each and every cell. And you have trillions of cells, hundreds of trillions of cells. And in each one, there's an intelligence operating it. And it knows exactly what each cell is supposed to be doing.
And they're very willing to do it. You have to give the command.
And it is acting according to your commands. It is functioning what you have put in motion. just like when you move the arm, there's a million different functions that go on when you move your arm. You move it, but this intelligence and this activity that is within you does it for you. And that is not an intelligence of the body. This is an intelligence that is in your soul. And it functions your life according to what you determine your life to be. And so this practice, you go start at the top of the head, move down through the body, and as you move down, you start being aware of all the things that are going on in your body. Your heart is beating. Who's beating it? This intelligence is beating it. But it's not an intelligence in the heart, and you'll begin to realize that. And you realize it more when you go on to some of these other practices which begin to expand. So you begin to realize the next practice, you move down through the body, but now you're going to move out from outside your skin as you expand your awareness out beyond the skin as you move down through the body. And you start to realize that in your body, all these particles that make up your body are drifting out of your body, and other particles are drifting into your body. And this area outside of your skin has particles moving in and particles moving out. So is that divided up? Is the particles coming in not you, and the particles going out are you? And so you're losing yourself? No. And yes, because the new particles coming in are making a new you. And the old particles are, in a sense, losing you. However, it's your consciousness that makes you. It's your consciousness that is forming the body. So no, even though these new particles are moving in, you're still you. You are still you, and that is showing up in your body, because your body is a reflection of who you think you are, who you believe you are, what you believe you are. And so that's a good practice. You start expanding outwardly beyond the skin and start to realize, oh, this is still has the intelligent operating outside of my skin. All the atoms in the air are functioned by the same intelligence. Every atom in the universe has this same intelligence that's operating my body in it. And look how well it operates its universe. Look at the sun is in its place. The planets are in their orbits. The galaxy is functioning perfectly. It's the same intelligence operating, the same activity. And so you begin to get a wider view of what's going on here, that there is an intelligence flowing through you, and it is here to benefit you. It's here to do what you want. Now, if that's a selfish want, then that is going to produce for you a world that is full of selfishness. See how that works? So it doesn't work in the sense of, I want a big car for myself, and so that's what I'm going to get. It doesn't work that way. It works by understanding that it's here for your benefit and the benefit of the entire universe, entire creation.
That brings up a good point. The universe knows your intentions. The universe knows that you know the universe knows.
Exactly.
And then when you finish that practice on 16, you have the practice for decision awareness. These are all building on each other. So you've accomplished those two practices, then you can move into the one on
Right.
page 16.
Now, before we leave this one, just then it goes further. You expand outwardly. At first, you're just a couple inches out beyond the skin, and then you go a foot out, then you go 6 feet out, and you start becoming aware and alert to the activity that is around you in your world, that same intelligence operating for your benefit. And the benefit of the world. In other words, everything you want for yourself that is good and is true, then you should want that for everyone else, because that's what it does. That's what it's for. And your awareness and alertness of that activity that's going on, your awakeness to it begins to have it operate for your benefit. Without your awareness of it, without your awakeness to it, it's basically just operating according to what the world has been telling your mind and you have been accepting as a truth. That's what it's going to push through. So, anyway, so the practice on 16 about that's about decision making.
It's the decision, and mostly what you talk about is the difference between the mind and the brain.
Right.
And yeah, you have capabilities that go far beyond the brain. Often, there are circumstances where people break the laws of physics.
That's right. Right. Yeah. We've seen this over and over again that humans are more than human, and they can be more inhuman when, and usually it happens in an emergency when somebody needs help. But those things are available all the time once you wake up to them and realize that it's about the decisions you're making and this intelligence carrying them through. So when your intention is to benefit yourself and to benefit the world, then that's what this intelligence will do, and then your experience will begin to be a better experience, because the whole universe is working with you to produce good. But it has to do with your decision, not the decision you make out of the mind. And this is part of the practice, is getting out of the mind and realizing you are not just the mind. Now, the mind is more than the brain, but the soul's more than the mind. And this individual mind is within our soul, and the brain is within the mind, the individual mind, and the body is also.
Part of that exercise is going from into the mind, into the soul, out of the brain to the mind, into the soul.
And out of the mind into the soul.
And the energy that you're using, you have to remember, it is omnipresent and available. You also mentioned the energy appearing in the mind is matter. In reality, that matter is only in your mind.
Right. Well, matter,
Energy
mind is matter. Everything we sense with the five senses that we call matter are mind forms. What is the mind is, matter is. The mind and the form, those mental forms that we sense with the five senses, are experience in this world is all mind. There's one God substance here that is undividable, omnipresent, infinite, but these mind forms get built on top of it. We call them mind constructs. We look at it and we call it form, but really there's no real form there. It's made of mental energy. And when you start to look at it, you start to realize it's all space. It's almost all space. There's really nothing solid there. They're mental images that are produced from the mind. And so when we say matter, really what we're saying is mind, because mind is matter. There's no distinction between them in reality. They seem different, but it's just a projection from the mind. That's all it is. Okay?
And you know the saying that you say quite often? The mind is not the body, but the body is in the mind. That leads you up to the practice on page 18, if we're done with this one. That's the practice for mind awareness, an exercise to awaken the inner, invisible giant.
Uh-huh. That's right. That's very good. Yeah. The inner, invisible giant. And we wake up to that, and we do the same things.
Page 18.
We move through the body, but we look deeper, and we understand now because through the expanded practices, going out beyond the skin, realizing that the same intelligence and same activity is functioning outside of our body and is actually functioning out there the same way it functions our body. In other words, I move my arm and the arm moves. Well, it's the same with the world out there. If I tell that mountain to move, it moves. But you see, the reason it doesn't seem to work is because we've been telling that mountain that mountain's there and there's nothing we can do about it. Not that we'd want to move the mountain, it's a beautiful mountain, but the whole point is, and that's what Jesus said, if you had, the faith of a mustard seed, you could tell that mountain to go into the sea and it would go into the sea. It's because that intelligence is operating not just in the body, but out of the body. And it's all showing up according to what's in the mind. And the mind is building these constructs according to what the mind is filled with. And so we begin to understand that that's operating everywhere and not just in the skin, and that I have dominion not just of my body, but also of the world that I live in, because really my world is my body world. There's no me inside the skin and the world outside the skin. We are one. My body world is my body. And it is infinite. And it operates according to my deepest intentions. And so we've learned that, and then now we're going to go even further and realize there's something, who is this that has the dominion? Is it the mind?
No. Or the intellect?
Or the intellect? Is it? Because it's the mind that's producing this body and this world. So if that's true, then is it the mind directing it? Then who am I? Am I the mind? Am I in the mind? Am I in this mind that is appearing as form? Or is there something more? And there is something more. And if we practice, we'll see that I think. Therefore, I am not thoughts. I'm the thinker. I am not the thoughts. I use the mind. Therefore, I am not the mind. If I was the mind, then I wouldn't be using the mind. I would be operating from the mind. But the truth is, I use the mind. I use the body. Now, who is that I? That I is behind and outside the mind. The mind is within me. The body is within my mind, which makes the body within me. And my world is within my mind. But that means that the world is within me. I am soul. And I determine what I am. And it's a little hard to get right away, but that's what the practices are for. So keep practicing those if you want to wake up in your soul where you have dominion.
And your sovereignty, it also provides spiritual insights. No two people are alike. And no two minds come to the leading opinions and unique ideas. It's individualized at the same time, possibly by who you are, your subconscious, your past experiences, what your cells have memorized, what your brain, emotions have registered.
Well, there's a couple different things.
Okay.
And yes, those will influence it. There's no doubt about it. But there's also this life that's moving through us that, and that has within it this perfect archetype of who we are, this perfect pattern of God's idea of us. We are a thought of God, and that is moving into manifestation. And that perfect idea, so you have that, and that every individual is a little different. There's the one God. We're all like snowflakes. We're all snowflakes, but we're all unique. We all have our own signature. That's what Jacob Bohm was talking about when he said the signature of all things. Mm-hmm. There is a signature in each one of us that determines our perfect expression of who we are. And that is ever updating and ever refreshing as it moves through us. And so
that kind of brings
that also gives each individual a unique view about what life is.
And it brings us to the mental bodies, which brings us to, on page 20, 2 pages more, practice for mental bodies.
Well, right. So we talk about that. And this is all about awakening, right?
This is the best part of your chapter where you say we can change the world we live in by expanding our awareness and create a new mental body. We create our own experiences using motivation, intention, implications, etc. as the mind is the transmitter of emotions, thoughts, concepts, body images, plus world experiences. Everything in the mind comes from either world thought or God thought, according to what you tune into. Follow your heart. Mind is creation of God, meant for our God self to experience creation. I love how you put that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So there's an exercise that, and what it is,
Page 20.
is you think of someone that you know, or you sit down in a place where there's a lot of people moving
Airport
around.
lobby.
An airport lobby. There's a lot of people
There's
there.
a lot
right
of
now.
opportunity there.
And
Or a market.
you look at people and you try to envision them without the body. And what you're going to envision, and this works, it's more easier if you start with someone you know and just think, what are they without a body? Then that is that mental, what you would see would be their mental state of mind. If you recognize that and then think about that mental state without a body, they would still be that same person. And you could still recognize them through that mental state. So there's an exercise for that. And then it goes on also into the emotions, where you can also do the same thing. A person's emotional state, if they had no body, you would be able to recognize what their emotional state is. You know that, like I said, it works better with people you know at first, but then you can start to practice this with people you don't know. And you will be surprised that you can look at people and start to see them as mental bodies, as emotional bodies. And then it even goes beyond that into the soul body. But start with the mental and the emotional so you can get used to practicing seeing people without bodies, looking at them and knowing there's much more to them, and being able to recognize them without a body through their mental states and emotional states.
I think you put it well right there. Emotions are interwoven into our mental states and go deeper than the cognitive state. And what expresses in the mind influences the physical body. And that's when you can take your clue from their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It changes your mental state. It can help you change your health conditions too. You can use your deep subconscious thoughts.
Well, right, because you can start realizing,
They can be
oh,
helpful.
that's true. That's not just true about them, that's true about me too.
Yeah.
And so what is my mental state? What is my emotional state? And the more you're aware of it, the more you automatically change. This expansion of awareness changes you just because you're awake to it. It's not about, a lot of it is not about trying to change this body or this mind. It's about waking up to who you are and starting to watch it and starting to listen to it and see what it's doing and see all these other aspects that are beyond the body, that are not the body, that are still affecting the body and affecting the world, and the more you become aware of it, the more it will change you just automatically, because you're like, oh, that's my mental state. And then you just start, it just starts clearing up, your mental state changes because you're having a new viewpoint of life, and that's what this is all about. This chapter is about having a place to start expanding your awareness, and that in itself begins a change in you.
You gave a great little hint about how to get started. If you're not sure, just start naming the emotions that you're feeling. And then don't try to suppress any of the emotions. It only intensifies. And the best thing to do is start by centering yourself.
Right. So then, okay, so you get centered and you start to watch yourself. You watch your body actions, you watch your thoughts, and you watch your emotions. And a good way to move forward in the cleaning out process is to recognize what they are without trying to stop them. So let's talk about emotions first. If I got angry at somebody, instead of saying, oh, I need to stop being angry, just go, as the observer, that was a thought about anger. And where does anger come from? It comes from the world. The world tells you there's powers out there and you've got to protect yourself. And so you get angry when things don't go right. That's coming from the world. That's not coming from God, And so you don't want to try and stop them, because when you do that, you're pushing them down into the subconscious mind where they're going to pop back up later on. What you want to do is you just want to recognize it. Oh, that was anger. And then move on, Oh, that was, I had an emotion that was fear. All of a sudden I was afraid. Okay. And then you just recognized that was fear. And then let it go for now. Don't worry about, where did that come from? Who caused it? Was my dad mean to me?
You can't blame anyone anyway.
Don't worry about all that stuff. Just call it for what it is. Become the observer of your life. And when you do that, then that automatically begins to clear out the surface of your mind anyway. Later, you're going to need to clear out the subconscious, and you're going to learn more about that as the book goes along. But first, we're cleaning that, and it's the same with thoughts. Okay, so I had a thought, I need to eat, I'm hungry. So recognize that, That's a thought. That thought was a thought about needing. That's a needy thought. Okay. Well, your body might think it needs food, and that's fine. Don't worry about it. Eat, whatever. But recognize the thought when you have it. That was a needy thought. I want a swimming pool. Oh, okay. That's a thought about want. That's a wanting thought. Start to recognize what your thoughts are. I don't like that person. Okay, well, that was a mean thought, that type of thing, or that was I like that person. That's a nice thought. Okay, you're not trying to change anything. You're not trying to manipulate your mind. What you're doing is recognizing what is going on in your mind. You're recognizing what types of thoughts you're having, what types of emotions you're having, and what type of actions your body is taking. What it's doing. I'm exercising. The body is exercising. The body's being lazy. Laying around watching TV all day.
I've never seen you do that.
But the point is, we're not, at this point, all we want to do is recognize what's going on. And this allows us to become the observer. And this is putting us outside of the mind into the soul. And we may not even realize it at first, but the more we do this, the more we'll realize who's the one that is observing. Who's the observer? Who's the watcher? Who's watching all this? See how that works? And then the more you do it, the more those unwanted thoughts, unwanted actions, unwanted emotions begin to dissipate. They begin to slow down. You'll still have them, but you'll notice the more you do this, the more you'll notice they start to slow down. They're not as prevalent as they were. I don't get angry as much as I used to. I'm not afraid as much as I used to be. That type of thing. You'll be amazed if you practice it, but you have to keep practicing, and if you do, you'll see results.
Talk about practicing. If you go 2 more pages forward, on page 24, you have the practice for emotional bodies.
Right.
And you just pretty much went over all of that. We have mental body, emotional body, spiritual, universal, love. Be alert. Sometimes emotions can turn into habits. What did you mean by that? Emotions don't have to be part of your true identity. Something we have, not something we are.
Yes. Now, you'll notice that when you start being the observer and you start labeling your emotions.
And that awareness starts bringing
you'll
insight.
Start to realize that a lot of those emotions are nothing more than a habit. Same thing with the thoughts and body actions. You'll start to realize that's a habit out of my past that I keep doing over and over again. It's not that I want to do it. It's not that I'm causing it to do it, that I'm doing it on purpose. It's a habit. And we don't need to be caught in habits, but we don't want to try and stop them.
No.
What we want to do is we want to start choosing better habits. So we can say to ourselves, I want to do something positive today, and do that for 10 or 15 minutes every day for a month, and watch how that begins to break the habit of the old habits that we're moving through. It begins to dissipate them, just like you dissipate the thoughts and the emotions, same type of thing.
And in conclusion of that practice, the result or conclusion is that you learn from yourself now. Paying attention, you get insights into yourself. It actually may even awaken a healing ability. It could awaken a talent. It could go in many ways, which brings us to the next subject in this long chapter 2 of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
We've explored the mind, body, even emotions, and notice the body extends out beyond the edge of the skin, invisible to all 5 senses, invisibly extended. So we're up to that point. We've practiced so much, and now it's just easy breezy, second nature. The body has an undetectable inner working that are very real despite not being seen. We have a mental body, which is both inside and outside. With practice, you can learn to identify people by their mental bodies, okay, and ignoring and not seeing the physical body. Mm-hmm. In addition, the mental body, we have an emotional body, and they influence each other's states of existence, either for peace of mind or for disruption. There's many invisible forces, which brings us to the next practice on page 26. The practice for invisible awareness. Awareness is a carrier of light when there is no human thought. Think about that. Mm-hmm. Oh, you can't. There's no human thought.
Well, there's God thoughts, though. So,
yes, the invisible presence is next.
Yeah. So it's all about becoming more and more aware, more and more awake to what life is, to what your reality is, and then finally waking up outside in the soul, outside of the mind and body, outside of your emotional body, and being the observer and being the watcher, and then beginning to realize that you dictate from that point. You have dominion and can dictate your life. Now, It takes a lot of practice, and it's not about trying to force it, because the soul, now that you're back in the soul, you'll start waking up that there is an inner spirit in your soul that has your perfect life in it. And it wants to come out and live. And through your awakeness and awareness, it does come alive. And that is how you have dominion. And that is how you live in heaven on earth. Okay?
And I like the way you concluded the invisible present moment where the light is always shining.
Invisible present moment.
Which brings us to the next chapter.
We'll learn more about that in the next video.
When they're done with all those practices.
Right. So let's work on that stuff.
Get going, guys.
But this is about changing our life, and it takes practice. Not because God wants us to have to go through practicing, but we have to do that to get out of our mortal concepts that we've gotten so ingrained in our minds. And that's what we got to break up. That's what we have to start cleaning out that. And we do that from the soul. We don't do it from the mind. You can't. The mind is a God gift, and it really is perfect, but it's gotten itself into this mess by filling it with world thought. And so you can't fix the mind with the mind. You have to get into the soul where you can then start the cleaning of the mind.
You have very interesting last couple paragraphs. Can you read my writing? Human thought.
You want to read it?
Well, if you can read it, it's more meaningful from.
Okay. Human thought is a distraction from awareness. Awareness is the beginning of a journey up through the human experience, up into the soul experience. Mm-hmm. We start by heightening our awakening, then building on it. Keep your awareness engaged until you can live only in the present moment. Be aware of everything, what the five senses are telling you and what they are presenting. And be aware of what they are not presenting.
Are telling you.
Example, the operation of the inside of your cells, the mental field, both inside and outside, faith, love, creativity, spirit.
Invisible.
And the invisible.
And the invisible. And that was it.
Okay.
And there we are.
There we are. We're back. Okay.
We're back. That was a beautiful ending.
Okay. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for taking the time with us for Chapter 2.
And next time, we're going to go over Chapter 3. And
I have a little hint.
Okay.
My voice doesn't always carry. If you can't hear me or you can't hear Lance,
read lips.
Just turn on closed captioning. Do the CC. The words will show right across the screen. So, hint, you CC.
Okay. All right. We love you guys. You take care. All right. Good luck.
Bye-bye.